Hi there, this is David from Neuroth Audio. I'm very excited today to be showing you the first volume in our new Alloy series. The Alloy series is a continuing deep sample of raw metals, minerals, and instruments created by them. For Volume 1, we recorded in great detail a unique set of chromatic metal discs. Depending on what mallet or what way they're played, they can have anywhere from a really minimal pure sound all the way up to a full set of beautiful harmonics. And to give you some insight about the instrument itself, we sampled these discs with a close, intimate mic setup using a really incredible stereo pair of JZ BH2 black hole microphones. Included are 4 articulations using a wool mallet, a rubber mallet, a hard stick, and lastly playing the discs muted. So in each of these 4 articulations, you're going to get 5 octaves of playability extended from the original. And in each note, you will get 5 dynamic layers with 5 round robins per dynamic, for a total sample count of 1300. So we're just going to start by just jumping straight in. In this library, there's going to be 3 sections. You have your source panel, the effects panel, and the sequencer panel. Over here, the source panel is where you're going to have your direct editing, such as articulation choice, the envelope, and imaging controls. And up here at the top of this panel is where you can select which type of mallet or articulation you want to play with. So in this library, you have the option of choosing to play with a wool mallet, a rubber mallet, hard stick, and muted discs. Each of these is going to give you a unique way to play the library itself. So let's start by listening to each of these articulations. You have your wool mallet, rubber mallet, hard stick, and lastly, playing the discs muted. So below that, you're going to have your basic envelope controls to adjust the ADSR or attack, decay, sustain, release. And beneath that is our imaging section. So here, using this pan knob, you can pan the instrument left or right. And then you also have this width control down here, which is going to allow you to increase or decrease the stereo image, going from mono all the way to very wide. So now that we've wrapped up the source panel, let's move on to the effects section. So over here, you have a variety of different effects that allow you to manipulate and modify the bass sounds of these discs. So to begin, we have our tone section up here. And now to turn on any effect module, just like we did with the articulations, you simply just click this little circle next to the effect, and it goes from off to on, and the controls themselves turn from gray to blue. So this tape distortion adds a bit of hard compression that really pulls it all together in a slightly aggressive way. So let's take a listen to that. And if you're on the lower end of it, it sounds really nice just adding a bit of tape compression. So you can also control the high cut on this module. Now below that we have our classic distortion, and this distortion has 2 different modes. You have tube and transistor. So let's listen to tube first and put a little bit of that, pull the damp down. So as you can see, it's a bit more aggressive than our tape distortion. Now if we move to the transistor, even a little bit less aggressive than that. But the transistor has, when its drive is up more, gives a longer, or pulls out the longer sustain of the discs. So now moving below that, we have our lo-fi module. I would say this is one of my favorites to use. So with the lo-fi, it's your basic bit distortion. So you can basically go from off, or 14, 15 bits, all the way down to 1 bit. I usually like to keep things just around like 8, 9 bits, and then you can also adjust the sample rate to get some really unique sounds depending on where you go with it. So let's listen to that. So as you get lower, it definitely really crushes everything a lot. But yeah, this is a really interesting module I like to use a lot, just because when you have it up here, it just adds like a little something extra, gives it that classic kind of lo-fi sound. So right next to our tone section, we have the filter module. And in the filter module, you have a few different filter types. You have your low pass, high pass, daft high, daft low, and formant. So with the low pass and the high pass, you also have a couple different curve options, allowing for a more gentle slope, going all the way up to a more steep slope. Directly above that, you're going to have your basic cutoff knob and resonance knob. And to the right of that, you have what is my favorite part of the filter module, is the filter envelope. So clicking this little circle here is going to turn that on. Now we're able to edit the ADSR of the filter envelope. So with this, applying this to any of the filter types, you can really create some unique sounds with it. So one of my favorites is with the formant. So we're going to turn the talk up a little, the size up a bit too, and let's play that. So definitely some cool things you can do with just the filter module itself. So let's turn that off, and directly below that, we're going to move on to our convolution reverbs. So with the convolution reverbs, you have two different types. You have your room and your unusual. The room is more basic, just simple rooms, whereas unusual is a lot more sound designy and fun. So to start off, let's turn the room on, and we have three different types. We have an intimate room, we have a cathedral, and then we have a warehouse. So start with the intimate room. Let's take a listen to that. And one thing with any of these convolution reverbs, it's always cool to add a bit more width to them. It really opens it up. So we can listen to the cathedral. And our warehouse, which is bigger than that. Now moving on to the unusual section, first one in line is reversion, which is a bit of a reverse reverb that's super fun to play with. I typically like to add just about 50% of the mix, a little later of a pre-delay, and then size up a bit as well. Next to there, we have our tidal reverb. So this kind of just comes in like a wave. So let's play that through. So that one's definitely really unique. And then lastly, we have our crystal cave. So that one comes off as a bit more bubbly. So using any of these, I always turn these on. They're really fun to play with and definitely great for creating some unique sounds. Below our convolution reverbs, we're going to have our basic effects. So here we just have a simple reverb, simple delay, and simple choral or chorus effect. So turning on the reverb, like I said, it's just a simple reverb that's going to give you a lot more control over time-wise what it can do. With the convolution reverbs, you're more stuck in that room, and the actual length of it is not as editable. So with the reverb, simple reverb, you can control to have a longer, all the way up to, like 20-second long reverb, which can be pretty extreme, but you have the options here. And with that, you have your basic mix, pre-delay, size, as well as a high pass and a low pass to edit this reverb a little bit as well. Moving on, we have our delay. So you have your mix here, feedback to increase how long it's going to delay for, and then you have your time, so you can choose between quarters, eighths, sixteenths, and 30-second notes, as well as making these dotted or triplet. So you can toggle back and forth between that depending on what you want. So now next to that, we're going to have our choral or chorus effect. So like the others, you have your basic mix, and with this you have your rate, so you can increase to get a more wobbly sound. And then you also have the option of 1, 2, or 3 different voices to add to it. And with this, you can increase the width of it, and you also have a feedback as well to really, I mean, when it's up at the high end, it creates some pretty crazy sounds as well. Almost reverb-like. But at 100%, that's going to go on forever. And last but not least, we have our mix section at the bottom. So we have a 2-band EQ, you have frequency, band, and gain, and you have 2 of them. So with this, if you're working on something and you want to mix out the lows a bit more precisely, you can do it directly inside of Alloy. Now, directly to the right of that, you have your out, which is a basic gain control. So you can go down 30, up 6. This is great for when you're adding in distortions. The convolution reverbs themselves with higher mixes can get a bit loud, so it's nice to have this knob here just to control what you've done with all these effects. So that pretty much wraps up the effects section of Alloy. Before we moved on to the sequencer panel, I wanted to show you our preset section here at the top. And in this, we have sound designed 10 different presets using just the effects inside of here. So let's take a quick listen to all these presets to give you an example of what more you can do with this instrument using the internal effects provided. So the first one's going to be called A Quiet Morning. Up next is Lost Memories. One of my favorites, Beyond the Bow. This one's called Intimacy. This one's called Nostalgia. Here we have Talking Logs. Now Whispering Willow. And Water Level. more effecty one. And last but not least, a gentle pluck. So as you can hear, this library can produce a lot of different sounds and has many uses in all types of music. And beyond that, we also designed 40 different curated patches of pads, basses, drum kits, effects, and more. So you can check those patches out in our content preview video. So the last section that we're going to get into is the sequencer panel. Now to access that, you can click this button here labeled SEQ, and it will bring the sequencer into view. If you ever wanted to get back to the effects page, you can simply click main and it will show all of those again. So yeah, this is basically our simple sequencer. Turning it on just like everything else, you click the circle right next to it and you can see everything's gone from gray to blue. So there's a few different controls with this. You have your basic steps. You can go from 2 steps all the way up to 32 just by dragging up and down. You have your rate, which allows you to change the note value of each step. So we have quarters, quarter triplets, eighth, eighth triplet, 16th, 16th triplet, and 32nd notes. And then this is where you're actually going to edit the steps. So dragging up and down on any of these will allow you to increase the velocity of that step, decrease it, and dragging all the way down turns it off completely. Now below that, we have our playback modes. So with this, basically it gives you a bunch of different options of how the sequencer is going to interpret the notes you put into it. So for example, selecting as played is going to play back the notes you've selected in the order you played them. So let me give you an example of that. And now beyond that, we have a bunch of different other ones, such as just going up, you have down, up downs, zigzags, you have move in and move out, as well as different combinations of that. And then my favorites are the randoms. These are great when you want to like pepper in this instrument on top of a cue or a piece of music. The randoms really give it like a really good feel to it. And then if you ever wanted to create more of like a pulse kind of effect with it, the all or chord is a great way to do that. So let me draw in a new pattern to this. And let's play that. Now below that, you also have a few different other controls, such as your swing, which can go both ways, as well as your octaves. So what the octave does is you have the option of -1 or -2 octaves, as well as +1 and +2 octaves. So adding any of these is basically going to take what you've input with your chord or notes, and then double that or triple that up the octave. So for example, with 1 octave, just playing a 5th. But then if I switch it to 2 octaves, we now have 3 octaves playing. Same goes as below. So as you can see, the sequencer is a great way, really simple way to just throw in this instrument into your music. So that pretty much wraps everything up, and thanks for tuning in to our walkthrough of Alloy Volume 1. We had a lot of fun creating this library and really believe in how versatile this instrument can be, from being the focus of the music to perfectly accompanying other instruments and more. We look forward to sharing with you the next volumes of Alloy as we develop them. See you next time.